Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. Thanks for joining me today. In this video, we're going to discuss herbs that you should be stockpiling in preparation for tough times. And so the goal of this video is to hopefully help equip you to be more self-sufficient and to need the medical industrial complex less. Hopefully save you some money in the meantime. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The herbs that I want to cover with you today are mullein, red raspberry leaf, oat straw, and a few others. So the bonus ones are to come, so stay tuned. If you're new to the channel, by the way, the Patriot Nurse channel, we talk about self-sufficiency, medical preparedness with a lens of history in the calculus. So as we're considering herbs and their role in preparedness, let's evaluate what it means to be medically prepared. A lot of people, particularly if you've been in preparedness for a short amount of time, a lot of people are going to tell you to go and stock up at different discount stores or dollar stores, etc., and primarily focus on the white coat world's approved list of medicines. And that's okay. That is a valid way of doing things. But if we're looking to support and promote health, there is a better way of doing things than just putting Band-Aids over things whenever they show up. And that's really where the herbs completely outperform the typical stuff that you'll find on your pharmacy shelves and counters in Walmart or Kroger or wherever it is that you go and are attempting to stock up on things. So the herbs that I am going to show you today, I primarily get them and store them in Mylar bags, and there are different ways that you can extend the shelf life of these dried herbs. But it's important to understand not just the herbs that we should have, but how we use them. And so I'm actually creating a course. I'm in the process of creating my herbal online course. But the herbs that we're going into today are herbs that are specifically targeted to help you be able to support your body's natural defenses withstanding the main threats that people face in grid down circumstances and every day, really, in tough times. So let's talk about red raspberry leaf. Red raspberry leaf is really, when it comes right down to it, one of the gold standards as far as herbs that are a panacea of support. Herbs work because they are superfoods. It's a very important distinction. And they're not the same. They do not have the same mechanism of action that pharmaceuticals do. Pharmaceuticals work by blocking and interdicting certain chemical pathways, whereas herbs work by nourishing. So pharmaceuticals in general work by suppressing, whereas herbs work by supporting and nourishing. So by that metric alone, they're going to take a different route really in restoring people back to health. The pharmaceutical world very rarely restores people back to health. I've worked in an area that it does, frankly, which is in emergency and trauma. But for the most part, taking these pills and storing things over the counter for long-term storage is really just kind of a Band-Aid solution, and you need better. So with red raspberry leaf is a great herb to store because it helps not only nourish the tissues for women in particular, reproductive organs, but also it's a wonderful herb to use for the support of the upper respiratory pathways. You know, we're coming into cough, cold, and flu season. Red raspberry leaf is a tea that I regularly make, and I drink it during flu season. And it's also actually quite helpful as well for digestive upsets. It's one of the traditional uses in traditional cultures for diarrhea and for upset stomach as well, because it does tend to have a nourishing and tonifying effect on the mucous membranes. Whether they're in the respiratory tract or in the digestive tract, red raspberry leaf is your friend. And, oh, by the way, it helps support women in labor, it helps to support proper milk production, and it helps to also support a woman's uterus and strengthening itself and preparing itself for labor. So red raspberry leaf is a great one. And by the way, if you're looking for a one-stop shop for these things, at the website ThePatriotNurse.com, I have a starter stash of 20 of the herbs that I recommend to get you through. And basically they're in the Mylar like this, and they're in the 1-pounders. Unless otherwise specified. And you can see the full gambit. I'm only covering a few of these herbs today for brevity and clarity, but the full spectrum is there at the website, ThePatriotNurse.com, on the herbal supplies page. So red raspberry is a big one. Mullen is another one. Now mullen, you might have seen actually on the side of the road. It grows in really poor and rocky soil, as a matter of fact. And the leaves of it look kind of like lamb's ear, except it sends up this beautiful yellow stalk in the middle of it. Mullen is considered the gold standard, no pun intended. Mullen is considered the gold standard for support of the respiratory tract. It has a specific affinity actually for nourishing the lungs and all of the pathways associated with oxygenation in the body. And so when you're looking at mullein, mullein is a very nourishing herb, and I've also in previous videos used it to create pain medicine. It really has quite remarkable properties in that it has soothing and it has nourishing qualities to not just the respiratory tract, but also to the lungs when prepared in a certain way. And so that video I actually made on making your own pain medicine. I will link that up here in the video so that you can see that. It's in the card. The mullein is a really valuable herb to store because it nourishes the respiratory tract, because we're coming into respiratory season, and also because mullein helps to potentiate the actions of other nerves, other herbs, and in particular with the nerves. If you're looking, for instance, to add mullein in a group of other herbs, or you're making herbs, or you're making a tea out of the mullein and using other herbs to basically create a synergistic mix, mullein is a great one to use as essentially a sister herb. It nourishes and strengthens the ability of the other herbs to do their job better. Oat straw. Let's talk about oat straw. So oat straw is an herb that, of course, like its name sounds like, it comes from oats, the grain that is cultivated, but it's the straw actually. So oat straw is rich in lots of different minerals like silica, phosphorus, really good bioavailable sources of these nutrients. In particular, oat straw is wonderful prepared as a tea for support of the nervous system. So if you're a chronic pain sufferer and you're looking to incorporate herbal support into your regime to essentially give your body more of what it needs to help nourish and support that nervous system infrastructure, oat straw is a great herb to incorporate into the mix. And I actually have quite a lot of this stored up. As many of you know, I am rehabbing from a car crash, and pain is unfortunately part of that process and part of that experience. And nobody likes going through pain. Let me assure you of that. Do you identify? Nobody likes going through that. But if you are particularly under a greater deal, if your system is under a greater deal of stress, whether it's from pain or from anxiety or from stresses at work and in family, oat straw is a great herb to consider using. Now, of these herbs that I have mentioned here, these are just some of the ones that are available in the kit, the 20 herb kit that I have available on the website. There is a question actually a lot of people come to, which is, do I use, for instance, the leaf that's cut and sifted like this? Hopefully you can see. Ooh. Do I use the leaf or can I use the powder? I actually include both. My supplier and I have worked together essentially to be able to bring you guys as best as possible these herbs, even though there are some serious and massive shortages right now in the herbal world for various different reasons. So sometimes there's powders available and sometimes they're cut and sifted. The weight is really what you're going for. Now, the next question that people want to bring up is, well, how do I use these herbs and how do I prepare and store them? Well, that is definitely longer than the attention span of most people who are watching this video or capable of reaching this on YouTube, which is why I'm creating a multi-hour course on this. If you want a starter set and a starter idea, let me reference you. I call it the Big Gold Book. This is The School of Natural Healing by Dr. John Christopher. And with the purchase of some of the products on the website, you can add this on. For instance, this should run you about $100 online. You may be able to find it for cheaper, but it just depends when you start looking at calculating for shipping, etc. On the website, I have not only the bulk herbs that are for sale, but also I have the Dr. Christopher's Herbal Kit. And the Herbal Kit actually has the pills in capsule form, but it also has different formulas that are specifically targeted. So it can be helpful to get started in the bulk herbs, but it's useful to be able to have with you a condensed kit, the Dr. Christopher's kit that has the pill form of various different herbs that have been already pre-mixed together, and you can use your references if you choose to add on. You can use the reference, The School of Natural Healing, and also the Herbal Home Healthcare book. And so when you're looking at setting up your home for a medical survival scenario, the allopathic way is not enough. Storing up the standard things, it's just not enough because it's a reaction as opposed to like an in-depth assessment and support, right? The white coat world is really good at stabilizing people. It's not good at promoting health at all. So for instance, to compare and contrast these, how would you compare the action of mullein, for instance, or red raspberry leaf to a typical cough and cold syrup, right? they're completely different in the way that they deal with things. The cough and cold syrup has the approval stamp of the FDA with all of their nepotism and cronyism and money to be made on the side from conflicts of interest. They may have the stamp of, oh, this is safe and approved for coughs and colds, et cetera, et cetera. But look at all the stuff that's in your average cough and cold syrup. It's usually Tylenol, which most people do not need. Tylenol depletes the liver of glutathione, which is a very important intracellular antioxidant. So you may be suppressing the fever, which is actually doing more damage in many cases than good, because your body needs that fever in order to complete its immune system cycles and processes. Also, if you're depleting the body of a very important intracellular antioxidant like glutathione, which is one of the unfortunate side effects of acetaminophen, Tylenol, if that is a side effect, you may be experiencing, for instance, symptom relief, but you may be extending actually the duration of the overall disease and illness. So that's just an example. When you look at also dextromethorphan, which is a cough suppressant found in a lot of these commercially prepared cough syrups, all this does is suppress the cough, even if it has, for instance, a mucinex in it, right? Mucinex or a guaifenesin, which is an expectorant. This is a chemical blocking agent which thins secretions that are coming out of the lungs and the mucous membranes. But it's doing nothing to undergird and to support and to nutrify the tissues that are in question, the tissues that are already stressed by virtue of your being sick. When you compare the herbs, and when you compare, for instance, the role of red raspberry and the role of mullein, red raspberry and mullein have a completely different action. They do not suppress. They do not block. They nourish and they support. And by nourishing and supporting with an affinity towards those targeted tissues, you're looking at bringing somebody back to a state of health and homeostasis much faster than you would if you just simply blocked the coughing or blocked the mucus. So just a few points here about herbs to store. There are many, many more, but for the sake of brevity of this video, I just wanted to touch on a few of those. Now, I mentioned that there were going to be some extras, right? There is one that is very valuable, and I'm going to bring it in here. This one gets a terrible rap, and it's comfrey. Comfrey, right? Comfrey, the leaf of comfrey, is singularly one of the most valuable herbs on the planet. It not only assists in healing of bones and supports and nourishes the body, making it more capable of reconstructing tissues that have been damaged or broken, or frankly, growing tissues that are in the process of being knitted together in the first place. A very well-respected herbalist, Susan Weed, actually advocates using comfrey leaf tea for pregnancy, as a matter of fact, and in particular for women who are of they say older, in their 30s, women in their 30s and up, to support not only the structures of the woman preparing for labor, but also to help knit together the bones of the growing baby. Because comfrey has, as part of its active ingredients, it has a growth accelerant compound called allantoin. And this compound actually helps the body be more effective at synergizing new material and new tissue. So for that reason, comfrey is preferred by many herbalists in support of, for instance, broken bones and in sprains. And it traditionally was used as a wrap and as a poultice on top of areas that had been broken or sprained. In addition to that, I had a student actually in class who was a goat farmer, and she had mentioned, that she had a kid, a baby goat, who had sustained an injury. I think he got his foot caught up in a fence wire or something. Essentially, the little kid had its leg that was broken. Now, kids, as far as like street value of a goat for a little baby kid, it's not so great. And spending the money to go to a vet to try and get this broken bone remedied, not really cost effective if you're a farmer. So what my student relayed to the class that she had done actually was to take comfrey leaves and to wrap those comfrey leaves around the little baby goat's broken bones, and she kept doing this for some days. And the bones actually reknitted themselves, were strong, and effectively the bones reintegrated themselves within a very short amount of time. She also had to set that bone too, which was, that's definitely beyond the scope of this video. But the purpose of sharing about comfrey with you, comfrey gets a very bad rap. It has a bad street rap because some of the studies that have been done on wild comfrey, not domestically cultivated comfrey, some of these studies have shown high levels of pyrrolizing alkaloids, and these alkaloids in certain vulnerable individuals with very, very weak livers, these alkaloids have been shown to be very difficult for them to clear. But Dr. Christopher actually, in his book, mentions that in the case of someone, for instance, who has suspected compromised liver, that only the leaves be used, and a specific type of leaf, avoiding the root of comfrey, which has more of these pyrrolizing alkaloids. So again, these herbs are very valuable to store. They help support and nourish the body as opposed to just blocking it, but it requires due diligence on your part also, and really a willingness to grow and to learn and to become an herbalist yourself. You don't have to have a certification like I do. I'm a master herbalist and a nurse, but you don't have to have that level of certification in order to begin to grow your own competency in using these herbs. It is helpful to have your own stash. It's helpful to start out to be able to use things and make teas, etc. The tea is probably the easiest way to render them into their medicinal forms, and many people choose to do that. The only difference between a sipping tea and an herbal medicinal tea is the concentration and steep time. So this is something that we cover not only in my in-person classes, but also I will be covering as well, Lord willing, in my herbal course that I'm formulating online. As well, you can reference these books yourself. It's what I mentioned, the School of Natural Healing, which I sell as an add-on to the kits online. So it's possible for you, for instance, to go and purchase the 20 herb kit on my website or the Dr. Christopher's Family Herbal Kit, and you can add on this book or the other one, the $15 one, the Herbal Home Healthcare book. So I hope this was a great start for you today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I hope you'll subscribe to me here on YouTube, Patriot Nurse. Just to recap again, the herbs that we covered here, red raspberry and mullein, oat straw, and then of course, comfrey as well. There are so many that I could go over. I would probably exhaust myself and lose about, I don't know, half of y'all, unless you have all day to watch me, which maybe you do, and I'd love that. But that's just what I wanted to cover with you guys very briefly today. And it's important that we get started. You can, a lot of the questions that I get, like, can I cultivate these myself? Yes, you can if you've got endless time, energy, and a desire to do it. But when you run the math on what your time is worth, in my opinion, you're better off to just go ahead and get them in the mylar in the bulk. So that's what I've tried to make available for you guys, available online on the website, ThePatriotNurse.com. Hope the video was helpful for y'all. If you enjoyed it, like I said, please subscribe. If you get value out of the content, and if you appreciate the content, subscribing and ringing the bell button actually really, really does help me. And also commenting on the videos and definitely sharing the videos with people. The algorithm does not like conservative people in general, you see. So we, as people who want to be self-sufficient, we have to kind of take care of each other, and sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing, and clicking the little bell, that definitely assists us in getting the word out as well. Make sure you also follow me on Instagram, and yes, I did TikTok too. So I've got those links down there in the description box below, friends. As far as the status update, I wanted to share with you guys how I'm doing, because I know a lot of you have been praying for me in regards to recovering from the car crash. Had another week of PT, and it was a doozy. Let me tell you, it's what I would really ask for your prayers for is that I would be able to sleep, because for those of you who've ever dealt with any type of pain, you know that, you know, you can push through it during the day sometimes. You know, you just push through, you grit through, and I am no stranger to pushing through and gritting through, as many of you are also not strangers to that as well. But nighttime is challenging to be able to sleep. And without sleep, your body doesn't really take care of itself and nourish itself like it needs to. So if you would please, as you're praying for me, please pray for my continued healing, and also that I'm able to get rest, because God knows I need it. I really do. So thank you guys so much. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Thanks for watching the videos. Thanks for being part of my life. And thanks for being such valued members of the channel. I appreciate y'all. May the Lord bless and keep you all. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.